Mr. Silver, bonjour. Welcome
Bonjour.
back to Paris.
Thank you.
Are you getting used to coming here now? Do you get your little restaurant and everything set up now? You get,
I have my spots, but I'm trying to stake out a really good hotel room for the Olympics because I know the city's going to be overwhelmed.
It's tough, right?
And it's already sold out. But I love coming here, and our teams love coming here. So thank you.
I love hearing that. Listen, I want to know how the NBA has been doing here in France for you.
It's been doing exceptionally well. You know, I was just thinking back on when we played our first preseason game here, which was, I believe, 1994.
Exactly. Yeah.
I had been with the league for 2 years at that point. I was David Stern's assistant when I came here, and I believe there were no French NBA players at the time.
There wasn't, you're right.
And so now, my God, 30 years later, there are 14 French NBA players, of course, including the #1 pick in the draft in Victor. And not just 14 players, but 14 great players, and a true basketball culture here in France. And you know what I mean by basketball culture. It's what's unique, I think, about our sport. It transcends what happens on the floor. It's fashion. You know, it's social media, it's social justice, it's youth programs, it's boys and girls. And I know, for example, Nike, when they have very much a global business and they only pick a select few markets where they're going to really focus their attention for basketball, and France is one of them.
That's good to hear. Listen, there's been rumors lately about you guys coming back next year, possibly with the Spurs, we heard. I know you guys probably don't have anything signed yet, so you can't confirm anything, I'm sure.
Who told you that rumor?
I've read stuff, you know.
Yeah,
but,
heard stuff. I heard stuff
does.
too, yeah.
I know you do. But I want to know, the general idea. Is it to come back here to France?
Yes. I mean, very much the general and the specific idea is to come back here to France, very likely Paris next year for another regular season game. I'm not ready to confirm it at this moment, but I will say there is enormous interest in the San Antonio Spurs.
What a surprise.
What a surprise coming next year. I know it's something that Victor personally would very much like to do. Of course, he'll be back here playing for the French team for the Olympics this summer.
Hopefully.
Exactly. And I think, though, to have the San Antonio Spurs in town, now this is the third time we've played this game. Tomorrow is the third time we played a regular season game here. But I think it's a tradition we'd like to continue. It's something that our teams enjoy doing. And as you said earlier, the French market has very much embraced the NBA.
There's another region of the world you guys have been expanding to. It's the Middle East. You have a contract with Abu Dhabi, which you're going to every preseason now. I want to know if you're exploring any other options, maybe Qatar, I don't know.
We are exploring other options. We always knew that when we began playing these preseason games in Abu Dhabi, that we would then explore other countries in the region. We've really been embraced by the Gulf region. We have strong relationships with the Qataris. They have invested, of course, in the Washington Wizards, in QIA, of course, beIN Sport. Over time, it's a big market with enormous interest, and so we will be bringing games to other markets. But the issue with games, they're critically important, but they don't really scale. And I think what we're looking for, whether it's with the Qataris or other opportunities in the region, is just also to do more around the game, and so those are ongoing discussions.
Something else I want to talk about. We French people are obsessed with Victor Wemby.
I'm obsessed with him too, and I'm not French.
Everybody is, right? I want to know your take on the way he's developing.
I think it's fantastic. He could have gone to any of the teams. It was a happenstance of the draft lottery, and San Antonio Spurs got the first pick. But having said that, I think with Coach Popovich, R.C. Buford, an organization that has a tradition of working with big men, with international players, I think it was ideal for Victor. I think they're bringing him along, to me, as an outsider of their organization, seemingly in just the right way. I'm sure it's frustrating for Victor that it's not reflected in the record necessarily in terms of the wins.
Say, like, would you be, I don't know, like not bothered or upset or by the fact that they're just not winning games?
If you're in my position, it's a zero-sum game. All of my teams have to win and lose the game, so I don't look at it that way. I mean, to me, I look at our 30 teams, and given any given time, the question is, are those teams making progress? Are they on a track to developing, to becoming better? Are they developing their young players? And certainly, when you look at the San Antonio Spurs, they have such a strong track record of developing players. And just now, watching Victor develop, I think I'm watching his body is changing. I mean, invariably, as a young man, he's becoming stronger. His body is filling out. You see physically what he's able to do on the floor. There was that dunk last week against the Celtics that seemingly broke the internet. Yeah. So it's been a pleasure to watch him develop, and I enjoy watching his games.
The next #1 pick in the draft might be a Frenchman again, right? Alex Sarr.
Yes.
How crazy is that?
Well, I know that our basketball folks are watching closely 5 French players right now that they expect to be in the draft next year. But it's a testament to the basketball culture where we started here in France that you guys are punching way above your weight. I mean, this is the 14th year in a row where from all the European countries, France is producing the highest number of NBA players, so it's not an accident. It clearly speaks to a culture of the love of sport and the love of the game of basketball.
I want to talk All-Star Weekend. We are roughly a month away from Indianapolis. And I mean, I'm sure you'll agree, there's no denying that All-Star Weekend, or at least the All-Star game on Sunday, has been maybe a bit disappointing lately. I want to know if you'd agree with me on that, and if yes, like, what you get in mind to fix this.
I definitely agree with you. And I think while we recognize that the teams and the players aren't going to approach it as if it were a playoff game. We're not going to see that sort of intensity. I think everybody seems to agree that we need to put a better show on for our fans. We're changing the format again this year in Indianapolis, returning to more of the traditional East versus West format with the 48-minute game without the different sort of ending we've been experimenting with. And I think it will be effective this year in Indiana. I think that the players recognize how important it is for the fans. I think Indiana has a strong basketball tradition there, but I think probably other changes will need to come beyond that. I think that will be fine for this year. One of the things we've talked about is maybe some sort of U.S. versus international type competition. So we're looking at a bunch of different opportunities right now. Regarding
like NBA All-Star Saturday, stuff like that, can we expect anything different from last year, or is that going to stay similar?
I think we're looking at tweaking some of the formats a little bit in terms of the dunk contest and some of the earlier events. I think the issue with those events, it's a bit hit or miss. There's so much pressure on the players on those dunks. I think that sometimes they're disappointing, but the majority of the time it's our highest rated event on Saturday night, and people love seeing the players out there trying new and different things.
Of course. All right, Adam, one last thing I want to talk to you about. I know you guys with the NBA are very much focused on your next domestic TV deal for the summer of 2025. But you've said before that after that, there will be talks of an expansion. So I want to know where you guys stand on that. Are you still thinking about expanding the NBA?
We are still thinking about expanding the NBA. I mean, you're right that it will take a back seat to our media discussions. And largely because, in fairness to any new teams that are coming into the league, we want to know what the economics are, and a lot of that is determined by what our media deals are. But we'll get those deals done in the next year or so. And I think it's, as I've said before, it's the manifest destiny in some ways of our organization to continue to grow. There are some other U.S. markets that are particularly interested, strongly interested in NBA teams, and there may be ultimately a possibility of expanding outside the United States, even to Europe maybe one day. I mean, the most limiting factor is air travel.
Of course.
And I've said this before, that we've seen tremendous innovation around other forms of technology, but in some ways, air travel has gone backwards. There used to be the Concorde when I was younger, so maybe as supersonic jets come back, we'll have opportunities to expand into Europe as well.
In the near future, are we allowed to talk leads already? Like, I don't know, we hear stuff about Seattle, about Vegas, but maybe Mexico City. Do you have cities that you got in mind that you want to, include?
Certainly Seattle and Las Vegas are markets that we're looking at. We've played enormous number of regular season games in Mexico City as well. I was there just this past December for a regular season game. Mexico City is the largest city in North America, and there's a huge Hispanic American population in the U.S. So that is potentially a very attractive market for us in terms of expansion outside the United States. Of course, we don't have the travel issues. It's faster for me to fly from New York to Mexico City than from New York to Los Angeles. Yeah. There are other issues that we need to work through in going to Mexico, but of course, I was with the NBA when we expanded to Canada for the first time, to Toronto and then to Vancouver. So I think that's something that's very possible, and it's something that we will continue to look at.
All right. Well, Mr. Commissioner, thank you so much for the time. Pleasure as always, and you're always welcome in Paris.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.